Okay, so hello and welcome back to another Unity tutorial. In this video I'm going to be showing you the project I'm currently working on, some code behind the scenes of it. It's going to be a multiplayer game and I'll be talking a bit about Photon and multiplayer related tutorials. I want to get a lot of feedback off you guys in the comments down below, and I'll also be putting a community post on the YouTube channel about this. I'll be putting it on Twitter as well. I just want as much feedback as possible so I know what kind of stuff you guys want to see coming up. But yeah, let's jump into the video. Okay, so I'm just going to give a quick overview of what I've got done so far. I've only been working on this for about a week, if not less, so there isn't that much done, but I'm going to be putting quite a bit more time into this now, and I eventually do plan on releasing this on Steam. Obviously, be doing early access betas, and I'll be doing a lot more with the community as I develop this game. I decided originally to make a single-player RPG game a long time ago, but even a single-player RPG has so much to it that it took so much time, and it's never going to be finished. This game, even though it's a multiplayer, I'm still keeping it a lot smaller scope. It's just going to be round-based combat, basically, using magic. It's all focused on magic and wizard spells, rings, scrolls, all the magical stuff, right? So if I queue up, I go into a round. Currently, I'm just using default shapes. You know, I don't care. I want to get the game working. The round countdown starts, and when it says begin, everyone's free to move. You can't actually move if you try to before then. You can look around, though, because that's, that's fine. If I move and jump, it's synced across the clients. You see on the other machine, I'm jumping and moving around. Okay, if I open the console commands I've got in the editor, I can then equip item ID 0, and I equip this staff, and then it actually, on the other client, has the staff. On my client on the left, it's the real staff, whereas on the other side, it's just a model of the staff, just to give a visual representation. I haven't got attacking yet. That's one of the next things to work on, as well as picking up items and stuff. So ideally, in a week's time, you'll be able to pick up items, and once you've got your item, you'll be able to aim and fire with them. The actual weapon itself is obviously just placeholder, and everything's placeholder at the moment, just to get it working. I want to make a proof of concept, have the game working as a prototype before I, dedicate too much time into it. But yeah, I hope you like the look of the game so far. I mean, then again, there's nothing really to like at the moment. It's just some capsules running around and stuff. But if you guys want any tutorials about anything you've seen on screen right now, like with the whole, queuing up, round counting down, spawning players in, and all that lot, then obviously ask that down below. But I've got so many ideas of different multiplayer tutorials I can do. And as I develop the game and show more about it, I'm sure you guys will get more ideas from what I've done of what you want to see in your games. If multiplayer is interesting, as I keep saying, just let me know, because I think multiplayer on the channel, those few videos I did, got quite a lot of views for considering, how long it's been out, and compared to my other videos, they did really well. I feel like there's a need for multiplayer content on YouTube. There's not that much of it. I know there are a few other channels that cover it, but not many. So I'm happy to do multiplayer stuff if you guys want it. Any questions you've got about multiplayer, feel free to ask me down below. But yeah, for the rest of the video, I'm just going to jump into some of the code behind this in case you're interested. Yeah, let's get into it. So the actual thing I'm using for doing multiplayer is Photon. If you go to their website, products, I'm using PUN, which is Photon Unity Networking. You can look about it here, read about it, sorry. You can go showcase, look at some games made using it, okay? Pricing and so on. Now, the pricing is actually free up to 20 concurrent users. So while you're actually, developing your game, there's no need to pay anything. You only really need to pay when you release it publicly and you have more than 20 users. And even then, you can pay per user, and it's not that expensive, especially if your game, if you sell your game or have some way to make money off your game, then it can easily pay for itself. But yeah, I'm not too worried about that. Basically to develop a game using Photon, completely free. And that's the fun of it, right? You can make loads of games and just learn a lot without having to pay anything. It's, a low barrier to entry. You just need to make an account. Now, this isn't a tutorial on how to set up Photon. I've got a video about that, and I'm going to be doing a more up-to-date one, starting these new multiplayer videos I'm probably going to be doing. But yeah, what I've got is I've got a scene for the main menu, and I'm not going to go through every bit of code I've written, but effectively, when you press play, the menu will open in a second, and we have the panel for name input. I press confirm. Once it's done, it goes to the panel for find opponent. I press the button. It then goes to the panel for waiting, okay? And if I go onto the actual UI for the main menu, there's a script that handles the actual, going through the menu, putting you in a game. Now, this needs to be a bit more sophisticated over time because it needs to handle like lobbies and stuff and, searching for friends lists and whatever there is that needs to be added. But right now, effectively, when you connect to Photon, you try and join a random room. Oh, sorry, no. Wait, where is it? Here we go. When you press the find opponent button, you say, well, if you're already connected to the Photon network, then join a random room. If you're not connected to Photon yet, then connect to Photon, because just opening a Unity project doesn't connect you to anything. You're just kind of in your Unity project. As soon as you press find opponent. Now, maybe I want to have like a login system before that. Maybe through Steam, it logs you in as soon as you open the game. You know, things can change. But as soon as you've connected, this gets called automatically because it's from the base class monobehavior punt callbacks. I'm overriding the unconnected to master, and I log it just so I know. Then I say, well, if I'm connecting, then join a random room. This is something I just found online. Apparently, it helps when, for example, is connecting is true when you click find opponent. But then what if you try finding opponent, then you DC and you come back and you're in queue still? You know, maybe you want to leave queue, and there's so many complicated things and edge cases. So I'm not saying this code is never going to change, it most likely will. But effectively, join random room, when it works, calls on joined room. So it'll say, you successfully joined a room. It says, you know, how many people are in this room right now? Well, if it's not the max, then just set the text to be waiting for an opponent on screen. But if the text is the max, then it says opponent found, right? So you're told when an opponent is found. And then when a player enters your room, it says, well, if we're not at the max players, then we don't care. If we are at the max players, then set it to be opponent found. So these are the two different cases for if you're joining a lobby or if someone is joining your lobby, okay? Then if you're the master client, then you're the one who closes the room, which I don't think is actually necessary. I think when a room has its max player count, then it actually does that automatically, but regardless, I'm setting it there. And then I say load level, which is the same as load scene, except it does it for everybody in your lobby. So when when everyone's found, everyone in that lobby gets teleported to the scene, okay? And then if you fail to join a random room, it effectively means, I mean, there could be an error, but it usually means that it was full, or that it was in, there's no rooms that have space in. So create a new one. And by actually calling create room, it puts you in that room, okay? The person who called it will actually get it put in that room. And then when we go to the main scene, okay, so there's not much else in here, just some UI stuff. I don't know why I've actually got post-processing on in the menu scene, but regardless. If we go to the scene I've got right now for, like, actually playing the game, we've got the scene over here. Why? There we go. I was wondering why the ground was just not textured. So, or not lit. We have the round system. Now, the round system, I might rename this, I don't know, handles the 3, 2, 1, go. So it's got an animator here that goes 3, 2, 1, go. And in the round system, what happens is, on start, you can ignore this input manager stuff, it's something I made, but effectively, if you're the master client when you load in, then you set up yourself, and setting up a player will actually spawn in the player model and at the right spawn point with the right rotation. Because if you look here, under the round system, I've got these 4 spawn points. So if I do this, you'll see here's spawn point 1. It's this position facing inwards. Spawn point there is this position facing inwards. Basically, they're all at a different position facing inwards. I just have to select them all individually. You'll see here. Okay, the blue arrow shows forward, so they all face inwards. And the hardest part I had with this was figuring out, you know, which player is which, because you do have an ID in a lobby, but imagine that someone leaves and joins back. The ID isn't, because it's unique, what will happen is, let's say you got 4 players, ID 0, 1, 2, and 3. Then player 2 leaves. Then they join back. Instead of being 2 again, they're actually going to be 4 now. They're going to be added on the end. The IDs are never reused. So the problem is, if I was just using that index, then it would be out of range and I'd have loads of problems. So what happens is the master client is always 0. And then I store in the room properties saying we're currently at 1 for the next spawn index. The next spawn index is 1 because we're 0. Next one is 1. And then we raise an event. We return if we're the master client. If we're not the master client, so we're someone else, we basically say, hey, I wish to get spawn index, okay? And then what happens is, when we receive a get spawn index, okay, keep in mind this has only been sent to the master client, so only the master client will run this bit here. The master client then calls send spawn index, and what it does is, it says, let's go grab the spawn index from the properties, so that'll grab 1, because 1 was set here, we're going to grab 1. Then we're going to raise an event back to the person who sent us the request. It's essentially a get request. It's saying, you know, I want a spawn index, and it's like, okay, go grab this one and send it back to that person, right? So we're sending them back the spawn index, which is 1 now, and then we are incrementing the spawn index to be spawn index plus 1, so we're now at 2, and then we set it, okay? And then what we do here is we basically say, after sending someone their index, if the room is now full, then send everyone another event, an event to everyone, receiver group all, saying start the countdown. Okay, then everyone handles starting the countdown, stopping the countdown themselves. And that's so it's as synced as possible. We don't actually sync the countdown, we just try and set it off at the exact same time so it all looks roughly the same. There's not really a better way to solve that, I don't think. If there is, let me know. But what we have is then, when we receive the post-spawn index, we try and set up the player for who we are. So essentially what happens is I spawn in, if I'm the master client, I'm 0. If I spawn in and I'm not the master client, and I'm the first person after them, then I ask the master client, hey, give me an ID, and they respond with your ID 1. So I set myself up in spawn position 1. So I'm effectively asking the master client, where should I spawn? That I know it seems like a lot of code for that, but I don't think there's a neater way to do it, and I actually don't think it's that bad either. The way I've got it is quite nice in my opinion. I'm using a static class to store the different event codes. So event codes are literally just a byte, and I think it can be between 1 and 200 or 1 and 199. It actually explains on here somewhere. I'm not going to go find it now. But you can use these event codes, and then if you go into a class and you implement onEvent callback, I think the actual thing itself has to be mono behavior for this to work as well. But if you implement onEvent callback, actually no, you don't. Sorry, because you just you have to at some point add it as a target and at some point remove it as a target to do this, and then you have this onEvent method that passes in event data. So it tells you, for example, code, which is which event it is. So from that static class I showed you, it was either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. And then you have some other data I don't know about. But you also have custom data, and custom data is the data that was sent. So you see over here, custom data is null because there's no need to send any data when getting an index. But then when you, down here, tell them the index, you're obviously sending the index. So that's the data. It's event content is the second parameter, whereas the first parameter is the event code. And that's how that whole system works, with spawning the player in the right place and counting down. And then when the countdown's done, I effectively just allow the player to move again. Now this code is like custom to my input manager stuff. I'm not going to go into that right now. But now that the player can move, it's effectively, just go from there. So I'm like, okay, what's next? I need the player to be able to spawn weapons in or spawn items in. So if I actually go to my character base, this allows me to have different characters with different like models and skins and whatever. So this is just the base for everyone. Then I can tweak it in prefab variants. But you'll see I sync the player's transform and animator, even though there's no animator right now. I know there will be, so I've just added that there so that all I need to do in the prefab variants is actually drag in the controller. Then that Photon animator view is what syncs the animator. I have a character controller and some movement code for jumping and handling gravity for the player. I'm not using rigid body, I'm using character controller, so I separate it out into different scripts. Movement input behavior is what actually subscribes to the different control input. So it says basically, when I move, do this. When I stop moving, reset the movement. And when I jump, call jump, and so on, all these different things for movement input. And then I have this equipment behavior, which handles equipping items effectively. So when I equip the item, if it's me equipping the item, then I tell everyone else to equip the same item. But they equip, because it's not them, it actually equips. If we actually go over to, for example, the hands, actually let's just go over to the ring. So if you equip a ring, it says if it's mine, if this is my instance, then spawn in the actual item prefab. But if it's not mine, just spawn in the model version. So that's what makes it, only spawn in the real one on your machine and spawn in the model on everyone else's. If I actually go over to where my items are, like the staff, then I've got the test staff, which is just nothing at the moment. This is where the logic will be for the actual attacking. And then if I go over here, it's just a model, just mesh filter, mesh renderer. And this model is what I spawn in on the other clients, but on my client, I spawn in the test staff. Now, I've actually just realized something, because the model pivot point is at the center and the actual test staff model is at the pivots down here. When I hold the staff, it's actually going to be in a different place to the other person. So I need to tweak that around, but I'm actually glad I've covered it on the video now because I've noticed that. Yeah, because I know in my game there's only going to be a few different types of like equipment, and they all equip in different ways based on what they are. And I'm not going to go into my game's actual design just yet. I'll explain more as the game goes on. You effectively have scrolls, which are one-time use things. You have rings, which are usually passive effects. And then you have hands, which could be right or left hand. And you have wands and staffs. Wands being one-handed and staffs being two-handed. So you can have 2 wands at a time or 1 staff. It's up to you. Staffs will be stronger, but wands you can use both at the same time, which means you could do cool combos with them, but they'll generally be weaker. And then I've got some logic here, which I've written this morning, which can probably be made better, to effectively like unequip certain things and re-equip other things and whatever else. Then this unequip method handles destroying the object instance, and I need to actually spawn an item drop, and that's one thing I'm going to do after this video. Yeah, that's probably a lot to take in, and I've just rambled on about it, but as I said, this video was less of a tutorial, more of a, talking about ideas for content coming up. I want you guys to let me know down below what you want to see more of, and I'll keep working on this game and I'll have more content to show you guys. I'll be posting on Twitter, I'll be doing regular updates about it, maybe even in our Discord server. But yeah, if you like the video, then please leave a like and subscribe, share it with anyone you think might be interested with multiplayer content, and yeah, the more traction that this video gets, the more likely I am to do multiplayer, and the more likely I am to do more content on it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time, and goodbye. But of course, before I go, I've got to thank my patrons. A special thanks to Jason Swearingen, Liz Kimber, Josh Folsom, Beardodai, Dustin Miller, Francisco Diaz, Rack, Yoris Letter, Hades Zorko, Rene, and Emery Baldwin. If anyone else is able to help support the channel monetarily, link to my Patreon is down below. If not, there are also links down below to other social media, such as Twitch, Twitter, and Discord, as well as our website. If you could help us out by following on any of those, checking any of those out, that'd be greatly appreciated. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.